Hey there, and welcome to the Unleash Your Greatness Within podcast. In today's message, I just want to remind you of a few leadership principles. And I pull those principles from this great book by Peter Drucker called The Effective Executive. And he has 8 points in that book that he found as a pattern among executives that would help them be more effective executives and leaders and so forth. So I want to share those with you.
You already know. My passion and my mission to help you unleash your greatness within. My heart goes out to the underdogs that's on their way. If you think you can go from good to great, okay, let's motivate. Greatnesswithin.com. DJ Hoisington. Greatnesswithin.com.
All right, so here are the 8 different principles he shares in the book, The Effective Executive. Number 1, they ask what needs to be done. So they're always asking and finding out what needs to be done, what needs to be improved, those kinds of things. It's an outcome focus. Number 2, they ask what's right for the enterprise or the company. Does it fit within our values? Is it important for us if we move forward on this goal? And will it make sense, right? Number 3, they develop action plans. So maybe you've heard of A3s and so forth. We cover that in our Leadership Academy, how to create an A3, an action plan, right? There's some specific models that you can use to put a plan together to achieve a goal. Number 4, they take responsibility for decisions. So great leaders take responsibility for decisions. When there's underperformance, they're not shifting responsibility to someone else. Sure, there might be a reason for that, and you might consider that as part of your explanation, but in the end, they own the responsibility. Hey, that person is under me. I own that responsibility. We will get it fixed. We'll get it figured out, okay? And if that means I need to do more training with that individual so it doesn't happen again, then we will make that happen. But, we live in a culture now where shifting responsibility, you don't see it as a very common thing, right? Especially in politics. Nobody's willing to say, I'm sorry. Nobody's willing to say, you know what, I screwed up. We're going to redo this. We're going to do it over. I wish I would have done it this way. Only every once in a while do you hear that. So we don't have the best examples out there. But I'm telling you, in a small team, in an organization, a leader who can be authentic and apologize when a mistake is done or take ownership of it, I'll tell you what, you'll become more likable. And I'll tell you what, you'll become more respected, right? Because people know that it wasn't all the leader's fault. But here's the reality. Someone who takes responsibility is the sign of a strong character. Okay, so that's that. Number 5, they take responsibility for communicating. Listen, I've been going into organizations and companies for 25 years. There's not one company that I've gone into where I haven't noticed that there's been a problem with communication. So getting the communication patterns improved is critical. So here's one little suggestion. As a leader, one thing I have found, and I've coached over and over, is that when you're in a meeting, you need to encourage the input and the ideas of your people. Oftentimes, people won't speak up. The culture isn't sufficient for people to feel comfortable to speak up. Maybe that's created by the leader, right? And so they won't say the great ideas that they have. But I can give you hundreds of examples of how companies listen to the frontline workers, and those changes or those ideas has made the companies millions of dollars. I usually share those in the Leadership Academy so that you can get an idea. Well, I think the critical element is leaders have to request and make it okay to have more transparency, more communication, and so forth. That's going to be really critical, that you as leaders or managers or supervisors, that you say, hey, team, what are your thoughts on this? Right? And get their input. That's huge, right? And it really sends a strong message that you have an open door policy, which you need for sure. Number 6, they focus on opportunities rather than problems? Are you just focused on avoiding a failure, or are you focused on excellence? Are you focused on achieving the goal, the outcome? Make sure that you are outcome focused, right? You minimize the risk. And when a failure is done, fail quick. Let's get over it. Let's improve it. And then let's get back on track with what we're moving toward. Get everybody's eyeballs focused on the same vision. And that should not be focused on the rearview mirror, which is really small. It should be focused on the windshield, which is 100 times the size of the rearview mirror. So focus forward. Okay? Does that make sense? All right. Number 7, they run productive meetings. Whoa, listen, productive meetings means that you stick to a schedule. Number 1, you have specific things on an agenda that you're going to cover. You limit all the side chatter and conversation. And let's say it's a meeting for 30 minutes. Listen, it will benefit you to end that meeting, if it's a 30-minute scheduled meeting, to end at 25 minutes, to be more efficient, to not waste time with little chatter and so forth. Although I understand that chatter sometimes can help spur ideas and so forth, but there's a time and a place for that. But if you have a meeting with a specific purpose, hold true to the time of that meeting and end a couple minutes early. It leaves a good taste after the meeting when you can do that. Number 8, the last one. They think and say we instead of I. The language within the organization. When I interviewed David Marquette, who wrote Turn the Ship Around, he did the same thing. He said, I'm never going to listen to you. As the commander of a submarine, I'm never going to listen to you. I'm never going to respond to your question unless you speak as we decided to do this. We decided to put it in second gear, or we decided to do whatever, right? Instead of I decided. No, by changing it from I to we makes it a team focus, a culture that's more inclusive of the team instead of me. All right? Okay, so those are the 8 principles that Peter Drucker put in his book, The Effective Executive. And you know what? I would just encourage you to apply those principles and become a more effective executive, a more effective supervisor, a more effective parent, a more effective leader, a more effective CEO, a more effective church leader, or what have you. Hey, be effective and create a culture that is driven by vision instead of by punishment, instead of by avoidance of communication. Thriving companies have transparency, they have authenticity, they have open communication, they're openly communicating about issues and processes and so forth so others can hear it. It's not cagey, right? We're keeping the information flowing so that everybody is available to the same level of information. And research shows that people want to be in on things. So you could do a better job of making sure that if you're a leader or a manager or supervisor, of making sure your people feel like their voices are heard. All right. And by the way, there's some people that have loud voices that maybe you want to hear less. I get that. But there's some people that hardly speak up at all that, frankly, if you spend some time with them, they probably have some great ideas, but you've never given them the permission to speak up. So, hey, start giving people permission to speak up. And hopefully the culture is they don't need the permission, that it's just a culture where we are open and transparent and friendly. All right? I hope that helps as a reminder for you to become that better leader that you're capable of becoming. Now go out there and unleash your greatness within.
GreatnessWithin.com